Hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, your girl Pamela, and this is Pamiki's Analysis. Today's video is about a lady called Brittany Watts who had an abortion 1 month ago and was charged with the crime of abuse of a corpse. Take a listen to this video.
Brittany Watts, a 33-year-old black woman, says she went to the hospital multiple times after bleeding during her pregnancy. Watts returned home where she suffered a miscarriage. Now she's being charged with abuse of a corpse, and she faces up to 1 year in prison and a $2,500 fine.
Brittany Watts had gone to the hospital several times seeking for treatment. She was not being well treated. She felt ignored and she left the hospital. After 2 days in the house, she had a miscarriage in her toilet. She then went back to this same hospital seeking for treatment. She met this nurse who seemed to be so kind. She even rubbed her back, telling her everything would be okay. Little did she know that this same nurse was the one who called the police on her. Listen to what the nurse said.
I had a mother who had a delivery at home and came in without the baby, and I need to have someone go find this baby or direct me on what I need to do.
Did she say if the baby was alive or not?
She said she didn't want to look, she didn't want the baby, and she didn't look.
So after the nurse called the police on Brittany Watts, she was being investigated. The police even went to her house, removed the toilet where the baby was found, and she was charged with the crime of abuse of a corpse. After much debate and committee hearing, they decided to release her. This is what the committee said. After a careful evaluation of both sides, positions, interviewing witnesses and researching and applying the law, this office believes that Brittany Watts did not violate the Ohio Criminal Statute of abuse of a corpse. After this decision was made, she was finally set free and all the charges were dropped. 4 days ago, she granted an interview to tell her own side of the story. Listen to what she had to say.
Now to our exclusive interview with Brittany Watts. She's the Ohio woman who was charged with a felony crime after she suffered a miscarriage. Last fall, Brittany Watts was 21 weeks pregnant when doctors told her that her pregnancy was not viable. After experiencing frustrating delays at the hospital, she eventually had a miscarriage at home. Now, this is her first TV interview, and she and her attorney sat down with national correspondent Jerika Duncan. We need to warn you here that some of you may find the contents of this report disturbing.
How would you describe Brittany Watts before all of this happened?
No one knew my name. I was quiet most of the time, just minding my own business.
The 34-year-old medical receptionist was in her second trimester of what she thought was a healthy pregnancy. But on September 19th,
I noticed that I was leaking the fluid and it was uncomfortable. I didn't know if I had used the bathroom on myself or what was going on.
And this is when your water broke, but you didn't know that.
Correct. I went to my OBGYN once I started bleeding, and so I'm thinking something's not right.
And what ultimately did the doctor tell you that meant about the health of your baby?
That there was still a faint heartbeat, but the pregnancy was going to be non-viable.
medical records show Watts was taken by ambulance to Mercy Health St. Joseph Warren Hospital, where doctors confirmed the fetus would not survive.
I waited in the hospital, waiting for the doctor to come in or call, and I kept asking whoever would come in to check my vitals. I said, have you heard anything? And they were like, oh, well, we're still waiting, we're still waiting. I'm like, okay.
After being monitored for 8 hours in the hospital, she decided to leave against medical advice, despite warnings of potentially fatal complications.
I was frustrated. I felt ignored. Then I returned the next day, thinking that there was going to be an induction or something.
On the second day, Watts stayed for nearly 11 hours, waiting to be induced, but that never happened.
So they put an IV in you, but that was the extent of any process to induce the pregnancy?
Correct.
Okay.
Watts' case had been referred to the hospital's ethics committee, in part because medical staff reported concerns that Watts was using the phrase abortion when discussing the next steps of her care. Ohio law bans abortions after 22 weeks, with exceptions for life-saving care. At the time, Watts was 21 weeks and 6 days pregnant. In a statement, Mercy Health told CBS News, quote, "While the legislative environment has placed an increased focus on the necessity and importance of ethical reviews, our mission compels us to provide compassionate care to all." But Watts and her attorneys say no one told her the ethics committee was even involved.
And I'm like, okay, nobody knows I'm here. I need to know something. And I was getting frustrated again.
Records show it took more than 6 hours for the committee to decide she could be induced, despite doctors' warning that they needed to act before Watts was, quote, on death's door.
I'm scared. I'm like, there's a non-viable pregnancy in me.
Right.
Am I going to die? Is there something that you're not telling me that I really, really need to know?
So you're worried about your health too at this point.
Exactly. So I left again without being treated.
2 days later, she miscarried.
I go to the bathroom. I sit down on the toilet and I'm doubled over. And then that's when I hear splash. And then I look down, there's blood. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to get cleaned up. All while thinking, wow, did that really just happen? But it really just happened. I'm really awake right now. This is really what life is now.
For the third time, Watts returned to the hospital.
The nurse comes in and she's rubbing my back and talking to me and saying everything's gonna be okay. Little do I know, the nurse that was comforting me and saying that everything was gonna be okay was the one who called the police.
I had a mother who had a delivery at home and came in without the baby, and I need to have someone go find this baby or direct me on what I need to do.
Did she say if the baby was alive or not?
She said she didn't want to look, she didn't want the baby, and she didn't look.
The nurse said you didn't want to look and that you did not want the baby. Do you remember saying that?
I said I did not want to look. I had never said I didn't want my baby. I would have never said something like that. It just makes me angry that somebody would put those type of words in my mouth to make me seem so callous and so hateful.
A nurse called police at the direction of the hospital's risk management team. Watts was later arrested by the Warren Police Department and charged with abuse of a corpse, a felony carrying up to a $2,500 fine and up to 1 year in prison.
In a statement after the grand jury's decision, the Trumbull County prosecutor said after a careful evaluation of both sides, positions, interviewing witnesses, and researching and applying the law, this office believes Brittany Watts did not violate the Ohio criminal statute of abuse of a corpse.
I think what happened to Brittany Watts was unfair. She was being neglected by the hospital and was also being charged for a crime she did not commit, only for the charges to be dropped later. Many people had their opinions on this. Some people are saying this hospital needs to be shut down and this nurse fired. And some are saying Brittany Watts abandoned that child in the toilet. That is what she is being charged for, abuse of a corpse. Listen to this comment. The woman, Miss Watts, received no medical attention for 3 days despite being at risk for sepsis, hemorrhage, and death door. Yet the hospital called the police to look for a non-viable fetus, denied the mother care for days while ethics committee debate on laws protecting fetus. Just a sickening situation. The mother needs justice for how the hospital neglected her health crisis. So whose side are you on, guys? Do you blame the hospital for calling the police on Mrs. Watt? Or do you blame Mrs. Watt for leaving the fetus in the toilet? Please drop your opinion in the comment section. Let's talk about it. And make sure to subscribe.